I've just bought this, a 1977 Triumph Dolomite, but this thing hasn't run in years. And that is quite the problem because I need to drive this car home. And we're both currently stranded just outside Liverpool, 225 miles away. And unlike in some other countries, here in the UK, you cannot simply swing into your local parts store and pick up parts for these. So, if the parts that I've brought with me in advance in this box aren't enough to get this car running and driving, we're both going home on the back of a recovery truck, which, if I'm honest with you, will break my heart. But wait, it gets worse. You see, I've only ever worked on 4 classic cars that have carburetors, and of those 4, I only ever managed to get one of them to actually drive. And that was just 200 meters up the road. The jump from 200 meters to 200 plus miles is significant. And it's not until this very moment that I'm stood here right now that the gravity of this situation is dawning on me. Have I bitten off more than I can chew? And I haven't even gotten started yet. To say that I am quite stressed it's an understatement. Okay, so this is another cheap car that I've rescued from Copart. The driver's literally just dropped it off a minute ago on his trailer. We rolled it off of the trailer, so we know it rolls freely. That's a great start, but past that point, I'm just kind of seeing everything here for the first time. This Triumph Dolomite 1500 HL is the first classic car that I've actually had on this channel that doesn't look as though it should be wheeled straight to the scrapyard. Yes, the rattle can paint job looks as though it's been in a fight with a lizard. Yes, there are pieces of trim missing. Yes, there's green mould on the roof and some rust on the bonnet. But this car has only done 78,000 miles. The interior is in decent condition, all the gauges are there, and the best bit, structurally, this car looks sound. There doesn't appear to be any terminal rust issues with the structure of the car. In fact, it looks as though it's had some kind of weather treatment over the years. I'm pretty pleased with this. And here's the thing, on the listing for Copart, all the information that I was given was that this just says do not run, right? I don't know if this car needs a new battery and it's just going to fire up, or whether it needs a new engine. I am completely in the dark. Okay, great news, we have an engine. So as far as I can tell, everything is here, which is great news. None of the wires look like they've been chewed by rodents or anything like that. A lot of the hoses look okay. Some of them are cracking in places, but nothing too bad. So I think the first thing we need to do here, just where you should always start with these things, is let's just see if this engine rotates, just to check that it's not seized up. Because if this engine is seized up, I think that's it, it's over. Now, the reason I don't want to just put a fresh battery in here and then crank on the key is because if this engine is seized up, then I'm only going to make matters worse by burning the starter out, or breaking the starter, or stripping off teeth from the flex plate. It's just going to make a bad situation even worse. So that's why I'm reluctant to just turn the key. Also, actually, as I'm stood here right now, I think I should probably check to see if this thing has even got any oil. And the dipstick is where? Where is the dipstick? Okay, seriously, where is it? I can't be that stupid. Where's the dipstick? That's the gearbox. Well, let's check if there's gearbox oil at least. So it's a bit burnt. Standard. This is an automatic gearbox. Oh my God, why am I being so stupid and blind? Where's the dipstick? Where's the dipstick? Come on, there's like thousands of people watching this, watching you be a complete moron. How are you going to do this if you can't even find the dipstick? Am I going crazy? Can anyone else see it? Where's the dipstick? If you were a dipstick, oh. It's down there. Alright, so there is oil. It's very black. Very black. But it doesn't smell of fuel or anything like that, so that's a good start, at least. There we go. Very, very, very black. But it is full. We'll just say that's good for now. Oh, that was shocking. Okay, so now that I know the car has oil, I think what we want to do is just make sure that this engine actually rotates, because if it doesn't rotate, it means it's seized. And if it's seized, it means I am in for a world of pain, and this is going to be over before it's even started. Okay, so what you're seeing there is actually just the fan spinning, not the belt. Oh, that's not good. Push down on that. Yes! Yep, there we go. Oh. Yep, can you see, look, the alternator's spinning, so the fan belt is actually spinning, and so is the crank. Okay, great news. The engine is not seized. Feels like we've got compression as well, so that's good. Okay, so just going to connect this battery now and see what happens, if anything. You have to kind of look for smoke, see if anything is on fire. Doesn't appear to be. I think the thing to do now is really just to turn the key and see what, if anything, happens. Okay, so great news. We have lights on the dash now. Fasten belt thing works. Park brake sensor works amazing. There's an oil light, ignition light. So if I actually remove, oh my word, it works. That's great news. Right. Well, let's just see what happens then, I suppose. Nothing. Oh good. Oh good. Okay, so what I was hoping was going to happen there was that you'd hear the starter engage. I didn't even hear the starter motor click. So, okay, think. With my multimeter, I am getting 12 volts down to the starter solenoid, but the solenoid isn't even clicking, is it? Just going to give the whole thing a bit of a tappy tap. Oh, big fan of that.
Amazingly, bashing it with a hammer actually got the solenoid to click when I turned the key, but that's it. The starter still didn't fire properly. With old cars like this, it can be very common for the electrical connections to become corroded and dirty after years of being exposed to the elements. So the way to deal with this is to remove all of the connections, clean them up as best you can, which for me meant giving them some attention with a wire brush and removing all of the built up road grime and grease, and then just refitting everything. And in the process of this, I found a lot of janky wiring, including this household wire connecting the ignition to the starter. This is a big no-no because household cable isn't built for the heat and dirty environment of an engine bay. So I decided the best thing to do was to simply ignore it. And with all this done, it was time to test out my handiwork.
Oh, nothing. It's worse. What? Oh, well done me. What have I done? What have I missed? Oh, have I got that the wrong way round? How about that? How about that? Nothing. You can hear it clicking though. Hey! Okay, there's no power in that. Okay, right, so the starter is on its last legs, I think, is what's happening there. It's not spinning the engine very quickly at all. I did just have a look at the battery a minute ago. It's got full charge. I know that. Oh, I charged it overnight as well. We might be in trouble with the starter there. Come on, have you got just enough in you to get going? It's not even close, is it? Oh, hang on, I have an idea. Give it a bit more juice. I've got my jump pack here, so I'm just going to try and toast the starter. If it wasn't bad, it will be after I do this, but I just want to see if giving it just a bit more juice gets it to crank a bit faster.
It was no bueno. So all of my connections and grounds were in good order. I did a voltage drop test which showed up good. I just could not get the starter to turn over any faster, no matter how many times I beat it up. So I did some car park Googling, and the consensus online was that this starter is basically dead and would need replacing.
Now, like I said at the start, you can't just pop into town and buy a new starter motor for one of these things. You can only get them from a specialist. Now, luckily, it is actually one of the items I brought with me, just in case. This is actually off of my Triumph Spitfire, if you've ever seen that video on my channel. I bought this for that car, and I thought, well, you know what, just shove it in the van when you come up here, because you just absolutely never know. So what I think I'm going to do, oh, the pain. It's the wrong one. Oh, it's not the same starter. That's not the same starter motor. Oh no. Oh, I need a minute to myself, so that I don't swear. So you can see that this is just the starter motor itself. There's no other big bits hanging off of it. And then if you look down here on this one, this here is the solenoid, but it's built into this whole kind of assembly. It's a completely different setup. Right, let's have a look. Anywhere nearby? It's not going to be anywhere nearby. There's just not going to be anywhere nearby. I literally just said, didn't I? Okay, so a bit more car park Googling, and it looks as though I've only got two options. If I want to get a starter motor for this car right now, there is a place as a parts place in London, many miles from where I am, or there is this company called Rimmer Brothers. I'm sure lots of people who are into their British classic cars have heard of Rimmer Brothers. Looks like they've got one in stock. The only problem is they are currently 2.5 hours away from where I am right now. 5-hour round trip, and it's 11:30. It'll be dark when I get back, but there's I can't see any other option.
And because there was no margin for error, I decided to remove the starter that was fitted and take it with me so I could show the salesman and make sure I came away with the correct unit, which meant getting my massive fat hands into a tiny space and laying on the wet ground because I forgot to bring anything to lay on. Because I'm organised, and because I don't act on impulse buying cars I have no business buying. And with the starter removed, I jumped straight in the van and got motoring.
Okay, so I'm here at Rimmer Brothers in Lincoln, and I have the goods. In here is a brand new starter. You can kind of see it in there. Well, it's a reconditioned starter. I took the old one in, we kind of held them up. They look to be about the same. It's currently 3:30. Took absolutely forever to get here. There was loads of traffic, and I've just poked in the route home, not home, I wish, the route back to the hotel, and that's now basically 3 hours, and that's just going to creep up because we're going to get into rush hour, aren't we? So I need to stop gassing and get myself back to the hotel with this starter motor. Right, so just got back. It's 25 to 7 at night. That was unbelievable. I cannot believe that. And I'll tell you what, if I fit this starter motor and I've got the same problem, I will probably just give up. YouTube, everything. It's very dark. I think the camera's making it look lighter than it is, especially tucked over in this corner. Now, what we do have here though, we have these big floodlights. That's the nearest one. So I'm kind of thinking it might be the best thing I could do is if I try and push the car over there and sit it outside or sit it underneath that floodlight, just to give me a fighting chance of getting anything done on this car. that last bit's actually uphill. Go on. Oh, I lost the momentum. That pinging was the door mirror that I managed to push off. I think it might just go back on though. Oh no. Oh. Obviously, because the bonnet opens, the bonnet hinges at the front here, it's shielding the light from up there, so it's just as dark in that engine bay as it was over there in that corner. So I mean, I could turn the car sideways, but then I'm stealing a load of spaces, and I don't know how many people are yet to turn up to stay at this hotel, so deal with it, just deal with it.
Dealing with it was my only option. So it was back onto the wet ground, back to shoving my fat hands in a tiny space, fitting the new unit and connecting everything up. Then I just had to hope that none of the hotel guests had decided to take an early night, because it was time to push the red button and see if all of this faff had actually paid off and this starter spins the engine properly.
Thank heavens for that. Thank heavens for that. Right, so we're about 7 hours later, and all I've done is manage to get the car to just turn over a little bit. But that is good news though. That works so much better. So much better. Okay, so we are now in with a fighting chance. Okay, so now what I need to give you is a very quick crash course in all the things needed for combustion, for this engine to run. We need compression, we need air, we need fuel, and we need spark. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and assume that this engine has got compression. Everything, all the piston rings are good, the valves are good, everything inside the engine internals are healthy. I'm just going to assume that right now. We've got compression. I'm going to assume that we've got air coming in. It's usually very difficult to gum up the air situation. It can happen, but I'm just going to assume that we've got air. That leaves us with spark and with fuel. It's a 50-50 toss which one I choose now. I'm going to choose fuel. Let's have a look to see if these carbs are actually getting fuel. And so you can see right here, there is an inline fuel filter. This side on here, there's a hose there that runs to or from the fuel tank. Fuel comes up there into this filter and then into the pump here. The engine drives the fuel pump. It's a mechanical fuel pump, not an electric fuel pump. Fuel is pumped out of the pump, up through there. That pipe runs across the top and the back of the engine, and let's go around the other side, comes around here, and then it plumbs into, you can see this is the carb, and that is one of the fuel bowls there. It goes into there, and then it also comes out of the top of that bowl, across through this pipe, and then into this other bowl right here. So what I've done, you can see that there's a water bottle there, and I've actually unplugged the fuel line from the carbs, and I've just put it into the water bottle. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to crank the engine, and I'm going to see if that bottle starts filling with fuel, and that is going to give us a great indication, well, it's going to not give us an indication, it's going to tell us that whether or not the fuel pump is actually pumping. Okay, great news, that bottle is actually filling with fuel. It looks quite old, that's understandable, this car hasn't run in a number of years, But that now means that we know the fuel pump is working and we're getting fuel right up until this bowl here. Okay, so just because we're getting fuel up to the carbs does not mean we're getting fuel into the carbs and then into the engine by any means just yet. I will come back to that in a minute if I think that's the case, but we're going to skip now to spark. And so what I have here is a spark tester, and this just hooks up in line with the spark plug wire, and basically all I'm going to do, hit my button, and then we're just going to see if this light will flash as I'm turning it over to indicate if we have spark. Okay, that is a result. We've got spark. So air, I'm hoping we've got air still, air, compression. This is where now I have to start basically just messing around with it. The car hasn't even coughed yet, so I don't think any fuel is getting into the engine just yet. So all of this is free, so that's good. This is the accelerator linkage. You've got the choke down here, that's free. Right, now a problem that I do have is that because of all the gammy wiring around the alternator and the fact that I don't have one of the connections, the key doesn't actually, can't actually trigger the engine from in here. So okay, so what I've done now is I've pulled off the air filters. They don't look clogged, they look fairly old, but they shouldn't be impeding the air. And then in here, what I can do is if I lift up the jigger, it's absolutely bone dry in there, so I'm not sure any fuel is actually getting into the carbs. So what I've got is just a can of Easy Start, and because I know I've got spark, I'm just going to spray some Easy Start into both of the carbs and just see if it barks or fires or does kind of anything other than go. There we go. It barked off there with the Easy Start. So I think our issue is a fuel issue.
So I pulled off the top of the bowl to find that it was full of the most gross looking fuel I've seen in a long time. I drained this out using a professional draining tool. I then disconnected the pipe at the bottom that feeds fuel from the bowl up the jet and into the main car body. This pipe is the part that often gets blocked with gunk and goo. I sprayed about 17 litres of carb cleaner through this pipe, then reconnected it before doing exactly the same to the rear carb, which was also experiencing the exact same symptoms. By the time I'd faffed around doing all of this, it was 9 PM at night, and there was now a genuine chance the hotel guests were going to start trying to get a bit of shut-eye. So I reassembled everything as quick as I could to try and get just a couple of starting attempts done before the clock struck 10.
So there's no fuel coming up out of the jet into the carb, but I could spray carb cleaner from the bottom into it, so I know it's not blocked. Right guys, I'm gonna have to call it. It's getting too late now. It's too noisy. I don't want to make a nuisance of myself. I'm gonna crack on with this first thing in the morning, bright and early, I suppose. See you then.
Okay, good morning, bright and early the next day. So I've got some good-ish news and some extraordinarily bad news. Let's start with the good news. So I started to dig into this whole thing this morning, and I think I've got a good idea of what's going on. And as you can tell, I've performed some relatively major surgery, and I have actually pulled the carbs off, and that's because both of the carbs, neither of them are actually getting fuel. So they're not getting fuel into they're getting fuel into the bowls, I know that, but we're not getting fuel out there. This is the bit that I tried to clean out last night, and it's not going up into the jet. I can't get any to come out into both of the carbs, so I'm assuming that these jets are really gunked up. Now, you can rebuild all these. In fact, part of my rebuild kit I've got with me, I've got this style of jet, so I could fit them. And now for the bad news. The bad news is that I have been given a polite cease and desist from the hotel. The car's been here now for, what is this, the second day. I don't think they really want me out here doing this. We've got guests coming and going, you know, the car's a little bit of an eyesore. I fully understand. I was taking my chances anyway, and I do appreciate the fact that these guys let me do this for as long as I did, even though on video it didn't seem like that much because I've been here, there, everywhere. So I do have a plan. I can't get this car anywhere else around here. There's nowhere else to work on this car. So I've got a new plan. What I'm going to do is just carry on here in my workshop, getting this car running and seeing if it will drive. Hello, I'm just editing this video, and I just want to say that firstly, I am gutted that I didn't get the chance to drive this car home, but not that gutted, because as it turns out, this car absolutely never would have made the journey home, because as you're about to see, I uncover some quite large mechanical damage with the car. So you're going to want to hang around to see what that is.
And with the car back in the workshop, I turned my attention to the carbs once more. I went over some of my car park work and I made a discovery.
Aha! Okay, I know why we're not getting fuel. I know why we're not getting fuel. I just pulled the jet out of the bottom, shot some carb cleaner through it, and a tiny little bit of dirt came out. You can actually kind of see it there. But the big problem, if I get you into the bottom there, can you see all of that gunk in there? And so when we were back up north in the car park, you saw me pull this off, and I was shooting carb cleaner up here, and I did shoot carb cleaner from the top down into this, but clearly it just wasn't enough, because there's all of that gunk and goo and junk in there. So if I just try and pull some of that out. Oh well, firstly there's a washer there. Huh. That looks like an old O-ring to me, and that is what was blocking this whole passage. So I'm going to put all of this back together properly with all new bits and bobs, and then that actually should be nice. There shouldn't really be anything else that I need to do with this. Well, I am now going to have a look at this rear carburetor. You can see this has actually got a different type of jet on the bottom to this one. So I'm going to pull all of this apart. You can see that I put a new nut on it when we were up in the car park, but clearly that wasn't enough. There's a washer. Okay, and this one is basically the same. I can see the old O-ring in there has done exactly the same. It's done well, there's another washer there. Okay, there's two washers in there. That's good. That wouldn't have helped. I don't know if it's an O-ring necessarily, but it is some kind of seal, which is what I'm trying to get at.
And with those two main blockages removed, it was time to just reassemble the carbs.
Okay, ladies and gents, that is the carbs fitted back onto the car, and that all actually went very smoothly for once, which is great. It's honestly an amazing difference having light to work with. You can actually see what you're doing. Who'd have thunk it? But let me just show you. So we've got new gaskets in there. That's a bit of the old sealant that I just didn't remove, but you know, whatever. There's new gaskets in there, new gaskets on the float bowl lids. The only thing that I have done, which I'm not sure how I've managed it, so this thing on a jigger here, that's the choke cable, and this cable attaches onto this linkage down here somehow. It was definitely attached before. There was some kind of screw, but I don't know what I have done with the screw. I mean, I think in the faff of transporting this car, you know, a few hundred miles, it's gone missing. But I'll have to fix that in the future somehow. I'll have to get the right bit for it. But right now, if I need the choke, I can operate the choke manual like that. Manually. I've got my external boat tank, so that's got fresh fuel in it. I've got my hose connected to it. This hose runs into a newish filter and then the other side of that hose, it's all very long, I understand, and then this runs straight down into the fuel pump. And so I've got my hand primer pumper thingamajig, so I'm just going to pump that and we should see fuel appear in this filter. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we're getting fuel in there. I can hear it going down into the pump and I can hear the bowls filling over by the carbs. Okay, so the time has come again to see if this car will now start. It's worse than before. Yes! Ah, my finger! Ah! She's a runner. That didn't sound too bad either, actually, to be honest with you. Right, it's because I haven't got that choke hooked up to the cable. I'm having to hold it open with my thumb there, not my finger, my thumb. Let's just try again, see what happens. That's the accelerator, by the way, Nino, not the choke. Right, so we've got a bit of a problem here idling. The car does not want to idle. As soon as I let go of the choke and get on the throttle, it cuts out.
And this just kept happening. So there was nothing for it but to load up good old YouTube University, work out how to add some baseline settings to these carbs, which I found out is done by draining the old oil from the pistons and replacing with the correct levels, tweaking the height of the jets, fiddling with the idle screw and playing with the linkages. And once you've turned every screw, nut and bolt what feels like 1 million times, you eventually get to the point where you press the magic button and this happens.
No, wait, the ignition's off again, isn't it? When will I learn? Ah! Well, the wipers work. How do you turn them off? Okay, there we go. That's nice. Okay. When I push this button, my entire life is going to get better. It's a very, very high idle, to say the least. What are we on? 2,500 RPM. It's too much. It's too much. Okay. So, I mean, that started up instantly. The engine had lost a lot of temperature as well. It started up instantly, but that is like 2,500 to 3,000 RPM, which is way too high. Ignition! Okay. It's smoking a bit, but I think that's to be expected. They're not too bad, nothing too bad. Especially if she's been sat for years, a lot of that's probably just condensation. Something sounds utterly horrendous. Oh, what is that noise? Wow, that got really bad. It was coming. Oh no, was that coming from the valve cover? Is that valves and lifters and...
So to investigate further, I pulled off the rocker cover to have a peek inside, and apart from the fact it was very black and dirty, I couldn't find anything untoward. Strange. Maybe an oil change will help die the noise down. So I pulled out the old oil filter, drained the old oil, and I'm not sure if you can see in this footage, but the oil definitely had sparkles in it. No big chunks of metal, but it was definitely sparkly. Then it was in with the new filter and some fresh 20 W50. I also did some more tweaking to the carbs to help get the high idle down. And then it was time to fire her up and see if that had done anything to the noise.
The ignition. So actually, when you stick your head down there, I think that's actually more of the gearbox. It's coming right from the bottom down there. It's not coming from, that's not valve train. So the engine's actually all right. God, my eyes are stinging. I think that's a gearbox, which is more worrying than I'd want it to be, frankly. Maybe that was the reason the car was parked up to begin with. I think what I'm going to do now, though, is realistically, I'm going to connect the fuel tank back up. I'm going to dump a load of fresh fuel in the tank, and I can't see why we can't just go for a spin around here. Right, so I'm just down here, just reattaching the exhaust hanger so the exhaust doesn't flap around. That's easy. And it just occurred to me that I haven't even looked in the boot of this car. Who knows what might be in there? Imagine if there was a starter. Oh no, don't imagine that. That'd be awful. Is it locked? Oh my word. There's a whole carb. What's wrong with that? There's two whole carbs. There's another one there. What? Got an old coil, an old air filter. That's probably the original air filter. Oh, a carburetor service kit from 1805. What's that? Oh, brand new track rod end. Oh my word, there's all sorts in here. Relays, hoses, a Triumph Dolomite Haynes manual, but also a proper repair operation manual for a Dolomite. Oh my word. What's this? Oh, look, here's all the chrome trim. This is all the chrome trim for the car, all the bits that are missing. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's so good. No starter motor though. So I haven't hooked the main fuel tank back up, and obviously you'll see that I have that boat tank on the passenger seat still hooked up. And the reason is because if the main fuel tank on this car is all gummed up and gammy and still full of old fuel, I don't want to undo all of the work that I've just done. So there's a bit of fuel in there, not much. I'm gonna peel that off and hope that all the glue doesn't stay behind. Oh, wait a minute. And I've put the air filters back on. I'm leaving my starter button trigger thing hooked up also because I haven't sorted out the connection to the starter solenoid, so I can't actually start the car from inside. So I can turn it off from inside, I can't start it. So I'm going to keep that attached, start it using that, and then see if I can make it 225 meters without this thing breaking down. And if I do go 225 meters, that is about 25 meters further than I've ever been in one of my classic cars. And now this won't start. Oh, fantastic. Has that got a flat battery? Will I ever have a good car? Oh. Woo! Doesn't like going in gear. Woohoo! No. Okay, let's turn the wheel first. Woo! The door. The door. Hey, we're moving. We are motoring. This is living. I can't stop though because it will stall. Please don't be any traffic. Ugh. We're on the road. Oh, hang on. Okay, we're going. Woo! Second gear. This is amazing. Yeah, boy! My door mirror is a bit janky. We've officially gone further than 225 meters. No, I can't stop. I can't stop. I can't stop. Where's the indicator? No, a lot of traffic. No, no, I'm so sorry. I'm coming through. Gearbox feels absolutely horrendous. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's got louder as well. Oh, ladies and gents, temperature gauge is working, the volt gauge is working, fuel gauge, oh, the fuel gauge has kind of come back to life, so there is actually quite a bit of fuel in here, so I'm glad that I didn't run it off of there. The windscreen wipers are working. Yeah. This is brilliant. Oh, it feels quite nice actually. Oh, I say it feels quite nice. That doesn't do anything. But kick down. Okay. Doesn't want to go very fast at all. Brakes. Yeah, brakes are working all right actually. Believe it or not. Ladies and gentlemen. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Now we're going. Go on. Oh, the gearbox is dying. Oh, the gearbox is dead. That's why this car was parked up. We don't have gears. Oh no, I've got to come to a stop here. Oh no. 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 No, I'm going. Go. No, we're dead. Uh-oh. That's full throttle. Come on, gearbox. Come on, gearbox. Yes. Oh. No. Oh, now it's changing all over the place. Ah, this is ridiculous.
I've got to go everywhere at 500 miles an hour because I can't stop. Thank you. Hello. You alright? How you doing? Oh my word. This is the... Yep. Oh, I'll swing it round. Yeah, boy. Yeah, and we're back. Oh, that is fun. There is not, I don't know which camera I'm talking to. There isn't a hope in hell in a million years this car would have driven 225 miles. That I can tell you right now. Oh, did you hear that as I turned it off? But ladies and gentlemen, she does run and she does drive. Needs a little bit of TLC. I don't know if I want to go any further with this car. You let me know. If you want to buy it, send me a message on Instagram or send me an email. I don't know. Maybe you can just take it straight off me. That's fun. Go and buy yourself an old classic car and try and revive it. Until next time though, I'll see you later.